It's always this time of day. Same thing happened yesterday when we started chatting to the Morituri team. The sun just hits the worst spot on my quotation office. And I get like a line of sun if I sit in a certain place just reflecting onto my face. And it also, whatever lighting I decide to do, it always looks I always just look drained because it's just unplanned for lighting. And I'm not wearing any makeup as I would be if I were on set. So, and it's really hot as well. So it's a bit stuffy because obviously for sound purposes, I've had to close my window. And oh, hello, by the way, everyone. Can chat. I've had to close my window, so I'm feeling it a little. But yes, enough of that. How are you today, Adam?
I'm all right. How are you?
Well, a little hot, but yeah. In general, quite good.
And you've just let out a teaser about a future podcast.
Yes. So look out for that coming soon. Yeah, I know. Spoiler alert, right? But yeah, that's one coming, and that's a really good one. If you're really into, I don't want to go into too much detail, but if you're really into kind of art and film, like similar to when we spoke to Naomi all those months ago about the Bird Room, like just very much that kind of vibe. So look out for that one. One that you probably are going to regret not having been there for, but you'll be able to listen to it back, Adam. So
that was way back in episode 6 when we spoke to Naomi Dersell.
Yes, ages ago now. But at the same time, fond memories of that chat because it's very much stands out in your mind, doesn't it? What she spoke about,
and that film.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
But this week we're talking about a different film.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Another very good film.
Yeah, very different film, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Yeah, very different, but also it kind of like a twist on traditional. We'll get into it. Obviously, it'll become clearer. I guess before we go on to that, like, have you been watching anything interesting in your inside activity time?
I watched a fairly old film recently that I've been meaning to watch for a while. It's one of Ryan Gosling's earlier ones from 2007, I think, called Lars and the Real Girl. And I very much enjoyed that.
Yeah. What genres? I've not seen that one. Is that comedy?
It's comedy drama.
Yeah.
It's not not so much comedy, more drama, but it was funny in places, and emotional in places, and just shows how good of an actor Ryan Gosling is, I think.
Yeah. So I think a lot of his multiple talents go a little unspoken because he's, obviously we know that he's a talented actor for sure, but we both like his first directed film, Lost River,
yeah. Written, directed, produced by, I think some of it was shot by him as well.
Yeah. I just hope that like people don't think, he's just a rom-com guy or whatever, because that's not him at all. I know he's been in a lot of things, and I don't think people think that way anymore about him. But
I don't think he's been in. I don't think he's been in many rom-coms, really.
Well, he's got like Crazy Stupid Love, The Notebook, which are the two main ones, and they're very popular rom-coms. But like for the general audience, like obviously he's been in like Blade Runner 2049 recently, and The Nice Guys is a great one with him. It's just a lot. Like he can hit every single aspect of, genre-wise. So he's
this was obviously this was quite a while ago. So would that have been before The Notebook and Crazy Stupid Love?
Before Crazy Stupid Love, probably slightly before The Notebook, or at least around time anyway.
Mm.
I don't really know when that came out. I've only seen it once, and that was almost begrudgingly, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it to a degree. Like, it's well made. I can see why it stood out as a film to a lot of people. But yeah, he's a talented guy. That is the Gauze.
One of the many talented Ryans.
Yeah. Ryan Seacrest. He's another talented Ryan in the world.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, yes. Any more?
No, that's all the Ryans. We've ticked them all off.
The limit of the world. Talented Ryans. No, that's not true at all. I know a friend called Ryan, if you're listening, Ryan. Hello.
Is he talented?
Yeah, he's a very talented barman. He's honestly, if you want your cellar well kept, he's the guy.
Well, I'm sure that'll be of use to a lot of people listening.
Yeah, honestly, it's such a shame because he has got, I don't know, this is such a off topic, but he's obviously in this unfortunate situation with the lockdown and everything, and obviously pubs in the UK closing. He's not out of a job anywhere, but he is out of a job doing what he's really good at, and there is no way of really at the minute like keeping up with that. So it's a shame because he is a very talented guy, and it's a hard skill actually keeping a cellar and your beers and drinks maintained. So shame.
What have you been watching?
I watched a film which every few years I always just catch on TV. Me, Myself and Irene, if you've seen that. Jim Carrey.
Yep.
Prime Jim Carrey back in 2000. It's just a very, very good Jim Carrey film. And very good, like Renee Zellweger, one of her, seeing her career, like speaking of actors and their, multiple talents. Obviously Jim Carrey is a very talented guy, but that hits him perfectly. But Renee Zellweger is really good in it as well. She brings the comedy as well as the nice, well-acted charm that she can bring too. But it's just so funny and out there, and just a nice story as well. Yeah, really love that film.
Of course, Jim Carrey, one of the talented Jims.
Yes.
One of the many talented Jims.
Very, very talented Jims. Do you have a favourite Jim?
Jim Carrey.
Is it pure Jim or the Jim? Yeah, you're Jim Carrey. Yeah, but obviously we're other than him, so we can shout out to Jims in the world.
Yeah, is there any more Jims?
Are we opening that up to James? Because James Jim.
Oh yeah, James Stewart.
Yeah.
Talented Jim.
Going back a few years.
A pilot turned actor.
Yes. Yeah, quite an interesting story that.
But we're not here for interesting stories from us
we're not.
two.
Let's not get onto too many.
We're here from interesting stories from today's guest.
Yes.
That was a good link, wasn't it? It might be made redundant after I said that's a good link. But, who is it?
It's this one's very kind of, I guess you could say, something very different to what we've had before. It is a team, but this one in particular is a father-son team. So we have Tom and Julian Crouser, who are father and son, respectively. And they are speaking today about their film Deadly Promises, which won Best Hair and Makeup and Best Ensemble Cast at was it March, April?
April.
Bi-monthly awards.
Was it March, April? Yeah, March, April.
Yeah. And this, I think what really struck me when speaking to these guys was just they are, and you'll find this out. They're incredibly nice and supportive, and they were very respectful, talking to us, but also very knowledgeable, and they're the sort of team which really take their project and really understand how important it is to respect every segment of it, because they know that they're creating opportunities for people. It's a very big cast, very large crew, and it's just really nice to see some good, honest filmmaking with a very traditional kind of American town tale with a dark twist, which is really nice. And yeah, they're both great guys.
Yeah, and just one of the things that they say just really stands out, where if we are summing up the film like this, you can't get better than saying what they said about how, like, if it wasn't good enough, they'd do it again, or they really had an emphasis on making sure that what they were doing was of the highest quality. And I think that's just really illustrative of how the film comes across. It just looks like such a professional feature film, and and some of the people involved, I believe it was their first feature film that they'd worked on, and you really wouldn't tell from watching it that it was the first kind of feature film. It was so good quality, a great film that wouldn't look out of place at the cinema, which I guess is the whole thing of making a feature film, is that you want it to be at the cinema. And receive a lot of receive as many audiences as it can, and this one deserves it. So really good interview, and I really hope you enjoy it.
Fantastic. Okay, well, why don't you both introduce yourselves? Tell everyone a little bit about both of you, and then if you want to give a brief synopsis of your film, just so we can set the context for everyone listening or watching.
Certainly. Julian?
I am Julian Crouser. I'm 16 years old. This is my dad, Thomas Crouser Jr. Would you like to introduce yourself, Dad?
Oh, how much fun are we having already? Yeah, so I am his father. That is true. Just like Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Julian is the actor. I have done some acting, but throughout the years, most of my experience has been around the realm of leadership development. I've done a series of online training videos and some private work for clients, but more than that, I was the actor mom, so to speak. A lot of the moms, when we lived in California, would take their actor kids around, and that was me. I was that person taking Julian all over the place. And when we got out to California, we moved there, it was 7 years ago. And for the short 4 years we were there, Julian gained a significant amount of acting experience.
Yes.
And just before we moved back to Colorado, which was a short 3 years ago, within a very short period of time, Julian had gone from doing just independent projects and showing up to student films, just sort of crawling through the mud, so to speak. He ended up getting an agent, and it just went crazy. He did really well in that realm as an actor. And I guess where we are today, from where he was with doing voiceover work for Pixar and television commercials and print ads for HP, and even got to be in a feature film, Beautiful Boy, with Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet. Wow. Even from there, when we moved to Colorado, part of the reason this project sort of came together was because there isn't as much going on in the Colorado area as there was in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Brilliant. I mean, speaking of San Francisco, just before we go ahead, now I think if I remember rightly, we've actually had a guest that you may know on our show.
Wait.
Andrew Chin, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was looking through doing a bit of research beforehand, and I spotted you just having that as part of your credits. And I was like, what, really? What? Whoa!
What a small
Yeah,
world,
that's
isn't
crazy.
it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's great to that's great, isn't it? I had the similar experience today with another guest that we've had on. I've actually worked with someone that they worked with, so this industry is just filled with small connections and things. It's brilliant to see it everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, would you like to give us because obviously the film that we're talking about today is Deadly Promises, which you both were involved with. Do you want to give a brief, just a summary of it, like what takes place? Obviously, if you want to avoid any spoilers, you can do. But in your words, what the film's about.
Sure. Julian, why don't you explain how the project came together in terms of the story? Why don't we start with that, and
Okay.
then I can give a synopsis maybe of the story itself.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
So originally there was this film called Better Late Than Dead where I got to play the role of Dylan, who was a red-masked serial killer kid who picked up his girlfriend on Halloween night and killed her parents because she couldn't go to a party. So just making things happen. And when we looked at it again, we saw huge potential for a new maybe horror series or at least a movie. And we thought, hey, maybe we can make this a mini series or small episodes, maybe describing and elaborating what's up with Dylan, who is Megan, who are these people. So originally we started out, we came up with story ideas, and we reached out to a screenwriter, Sandy, who is really marvelous, and she put the pieces together and made this really cohesive, really nice story. And originally we planned on doing 6 10-minute episodes or so, and it just became a feature film. So
It really did. It built. It expanded as we went along. We, again, from this short 5-minute, just scary thriller film, that Julian, for the first time, got to play the role of this scary character that he brought to life in such a way. We were asking those questions. Well, in this moment, like, what happens before that moment in that short film? How does Dylan get that way, and what happens after when he does take her to the party? And that's where the story concepts that Julian and I created for probably about 3 months. We went through ideating and creating concepts, and then from there we engaged with Sandy to turn all of our story concepts into the script itself. And it did go through a few phases where we were starting with, well, let's make a long, short film. And then it was, let's make it into episodes. And as soon as we really got the cast together, the cast and crew total about 76 individuals, plus one dog. And when we were filming the first 2 weeks of filming, or weekends, I should say, of filming, it was so special. It was so wonderful. It was coming together so well. We just felt like there's something bigger and better here. And that's where it turned into what ultimately is a feature film. And it's an interesting story for anyone who is interested in seeing it. It's a suspense thriller. It's not as much horror like blood and guts, right? We kind of minimize the blood and guts and we ramp up the suspense piece, but it's extremely creative, I think, in the end result, in where we are today. And I am thankful to both of you. We both are very thankful for the award of Best Ensemble Cast as well as the award of Best Makeup. We've been very blessed with just an incredible ride the last couple of months with numerous film festival wins and awards, and we're just sort of on cloud 9 right now.
Well, I think that's what impressed us massively is that just the sheer size of the cast that you did have and how it all came together and how it all fitted as part of the narrative. And then, but you were able to focus in on telling this story that you wanted to tell in this very, very standard, typical town. It could happen. Like, who knows? This could be happening anywhere and you don't know, but it's that sort of normal, it's very much a picture that we have, like the kind of the standard, the typical American town, which has that very normal go to high school and everything. It's very, very traditional but with that twist, which was really, really nice and brought out really nicely by the cast, and obviously all the effects and all the hard work that you guys did. So yeah, we were very impressed. Very impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very fortunate to have the resources that we had to bring together for the film, because again, this still was a fairly low budget film when all was said and done.
Yes. Yeah,
talking about approximately $50,000 for a feature film that includes so many different components, so many different scenes, locations, sets, wardrobe. I think we got a lot of high value and high quality out of the resources we did have. My favorite probably was that 1977 10th anniversary edition Pontiac Trans Am Firebird. I must say, that was a special car to drive. I was the masked driver. Just that's a secret, but that was me. I got to drive it around, but we had a lot of fun. And part of it I think is the comedy, the crew. And not only were they fun behind the scenes, between the camera and the gaff and the lighting and all the stuff that was going on, but the cast really, their comedy, the character of Travis, a lot of what happened was we sort of said, here's basically what we're thinking for this role. Here are a couple of ideas of the lines. He would take them. It's Braden Wilson. He would take the lines and just come up with this stuff that's just genius, that is just hilarious. So you get a whole kaleidoscope of flavors, right? It's not just a suspense and scary and, oh my gosh, what's going to happen the whole time. I mean, it's like you said, it's real world. We didn't want it to be cheesy, but there's humor, there's good and bad. There's, you've got the bully, the jock, you've got, the cheerleaders, you've got the character that they're both going at. You've got the good kid and the bad kid. And there are just so many components to it that we really enjoyed. But I'm so proud. I got to tell you, as a father-son project, it's something that I could not be more proud of Julian here for the character that he brought to life in a couple different ways, as you guys know. It's just so much, so beyond what I ever expected. I mean, I knew he was a pretty good actor, but boy, oh boy, I think we got the right people for the right characters, and it really shows that it doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to be in Los Angeles. You don't have to be, in maybe London proper or New York City or a lot of these areas that are, the Hollywood type locations. You can be anywhere. We can be in Colorado and create something amazing. The talent that is here. It's just incredible. So I do have to say I'm pretty proud of this guy for all of the hours that he put in and the way that he brought that character to life.
Thank you.
Oh, that's really good to hear.
I think as well from my point of view, the visuals were very good as well, very polished. A lot, like you say, for the low budget nature of it, it doesn't look low budget. So, which can sometimes be the case on like a lower budget film. It still looked good quality and everything. So I think you really managed to pull that off well. And we should have probably said at the start, me and Mark are both filmmakers as well. Mark is a writer and actor, and I'm a cinematographer. So we kind of pick up on those parts, and I think, like you say, with the acting and the visuals, both of our kind of key roles, we could see how good quality it was in your film.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a focus. I think from the beginning, you have to have the right people, number one. Equipment, whatever you're shooting on, obviously that's important. But if you have the right talent who knows how to get the right angles, you have the right talent that can bring those characters to life. I think throughout just my own personal life and experience, no matter what I've done, it's always about the highest quality possible, right? And I think one of the sad things that I have observed are filmmakers who settle for good enough. And there are many times that we went back and reshot scenes because honestly, it was almost there, but it just wasn't great. And we really focused on that attention to detail. Sometimes just the smallest little pieces, it's worth it to reshoot or to expand a scene or to do something to make sure that it comes across and the audience gets it and it helps feed that thrill and that emotion. So to me, I think doing this project that again started off with just this little father-son project that became something greater. Now it's an opportunity to showcase and shine the light on Colorado-based talent to, hey, we're going to make this a feature film. The whole process was always about, no matter what, we don't sacrifice the quality. And to me, that speaks volumes.
So how long were you from the point where it left solely your two minds, and when Sandy got involved, how long did it take to get from there to a finished film? How long were you in production and post-production and everything?
Yeah, great question. So Julian and I started, Tolian Productions is sort of the name we came up with, and that was at Christmas time the year prior. It's Tom, Julian, Tolian. That's how we came up with it. And so we started there with this idea and this concept, and ideating the story was over the following roughly 3 months, January, February, March. We finally knew we had enough of a full story structure to start turning it into a screenplay, and that was roughly around April when we engaged with Sandy. And by the middle of May, within basically a month, she had created sort of our core script, but at that time it was created in episodes. At the time it was 6 different episodes. And over the next couple of months, basically June and July, we went from doing all of our casting to taking that script to turning the script into starting to make that into the feature film version as opposed to episodic scenes and scripts. And at that point, I think it just grew and grew because we were filming from the very beginning, the very first weekend in August of last year, 2019. And it was every weekend pretty much for about 2.5 to 3 months. As we got to what we would consider at the end of October would be our initial rough cut, which was about a 1-hour version of the film. We were able to collaboration was just a huge part of this. So between Julian, Sandy and myself, the three of us continued to build on each other's ideas. And when we saw what film we had in place at the end of October, we said, okay, where are the gaps? Which characters need to have a little bit more development? Do we need to see them a little bit more? The whole high school, when Travis goes into the high school and he's walking down the hallway, that wasn't filmed until December. That was one of those, we need to get more of Travis, the interaction with the principal in the hallway. And so we did that. So we were able to work with each other and build that over the next roughly 2-3 months. And we had filmed a couple more scenes in January, one more scene in February, and that's ultimately where we came up with what we consider to be our 99.9% finished feature film.
Excellent.
That's interesting because we also started shooting in August for a film that we've been working on that is only a short, and we're only just finishing off now. But that's because we shot it in 3 different sections for 3 different parts, and they needed to be done at different points, and we had kind of like probably a smaller crew than you are, I'm guessing, and we just spaced it out for a number of different reasons. So we finished shooting in January, and we're just kind of like tidying that up now as well. So to hear that you started your feature at the same time as us makes me a bit jealous.
Well, don't be jealous because we didn't get to sleep for about 6 months. So at least you got to sleep.
That's very true. Was there anything that was particularly challenging? Obviously, you've mentioned the lack of sleep, but was there anything, any particular things that if you were going forward to do another feature film, that you would try and avoid, or maybe even things that went really well and you were really proud of?
Sure.
Well, I think that overall something that really went well is there were not really any creative differences or arguments on set. Everyone was on the same page. They were each bringing their own vision, but it all kind of came together so seamlessly. it's like almost no problems happened. And I noticed a lot of, at least news articles I read, that this happens on set and these two actors hated each other, but everyone on our set got along so well. And I think that's something that is really great. And I'd love for that to happen if a potential sequel or a different movie was made.
Yeah, for sure. Our director was wonderful. This is Joe Ramos. It was his first feature film that he had directed, although he had done numerous shorts and a lot of TV network programs. I think we always complimented each other, and we did have a variety of different personalities. Where Joe, as our director, was very thoughtful. I would be bouncing off, what about this? What about this? Why don't we do it this way? And of course, Joe was the calm, cool, collected one that he'd kind of say, and he would think about it. And, many times I would have an idea that we implemented that worked really well. Other times he would have an idea, like you might remember when two of the characters were going around that cage, right? You've got that whoosh, yes, right? Yeah, really cool, really well done. That was something that Joe came up with. I think it was very complimentary to everyone's insights. Some of the actors, in the moment would say, would it be okay if I did it this way or this way? And we empowered everyone with the creative freedom to, here's sort of our framework of what we'd like to accomplish, but make it your own. If there's something you need to dial up, I think giving that flexibility, that allowing and empowering the creativity for the cast and for the crew and for the way that they do the lighting here or there, I think a lot of that was very collaborative. Like Julian said, we really didn't have what you would say, there definitely were no fistfights. And I do hear of, directors throwing scripts across the, the floor. And it was very nice to have such a great, harmonious production.
Fantastic. I mean, that's always what you want to hear, isn't it? And I think if it's the worst, one of the worst parts about the industry is the potential for creative differences. And I think in many ways it's for good reasons. Everyone wants the best for a project. But when it gets to a point where it's just there's just too much of a divide, things can happen, unfortunately. So it's great to hear that that didn't happen. And I suppose then that allowed everybody to explore their own specialisms in the best way. So, for example, you, Julian, like you were able to. I mean, I know you were. This was in your mind from the very start. But you developing your character. I mean, were you able to explore it a lot on set? I mean, how much did you do beforehand, and then how much were you able to experiment? When you were in production. And sort of help to develop the great character that you did end up portraying?
Well, beforehand, as we were writing the script and figuring it out, I was thinking through the arc we had created. And I looked to other performances for inspiration, such as James McAvoy in Split, because he really brings to life every single character he portrays. And they're so different from one another. And I really, I looked up to that. And I studied a lot about just mental issues and things that happen in the brain. And I studied and I practiced different voices for... I'm not going to go into spoiler territory, but I tried some new things out. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
And I'll also say, not only that, I referenced how we had such good harmony with the crew, working together, the DP and the director, the producer, how we all sort of worked and lifted each other up. I would say part of the reason that you found this worthy of the Best Ensemble Cast Award was partly because the connection that these actors had. Isabella Salazar playing Megan, she brought that character to life. Braden, as I mentioned earlier, Braden Wilson playing Travis. Also Uncle Max, right? So this is M.J. Wolf. Now, M.J. Wolf was a Hollywood actor. He's had small roles in large films. So he was in Collateral with Tom Cruise. He played in the flashback scene in The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio. You might remember Cary Grant, that flashback scene. That was M.J. Wolf. He also had lines with Brad Pitt. I think he played the bartender in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So you have everyone from people who have never been on a set to people that were rock star professionals. And the harmony, though, just that connection, the way they played off each other was really, really great. The other thing I'll say is you did ask, was there something you'll do differently next time? Like, was there a learning? And I would say one clear learning we had was the first 2 weekends of filming, so probably our first four and a half shoot days, we were using a single camera and we would shoot from a variety of angles. We had a Blackmagic that our DP was using, and it was great. But when we added that second, and Alex, that was Ian Brander was our DP, and Alex Fall was on set. He was part of the crew, and he became sort of the co-DP, and we started using his equipment as well to get multiple, shoot both cameras on a variety of scenes. That's something that I wish we would have done from the start, because it really made the rest of it go so, so well. And from an efficiency standpoint, you can do a lot of the you can cross film scenes and you can pick up a lot of establishing shots. And that's probably something I would recommend, that if filmmakers out there have a pretty big project and you want to get some really great shots, do some, cross footage at the same time. Instead of reshooting the same scene from multiple angles with the same camera, you can really go a long way when you do it with two cameras simultaneously.
Very good advice. Very good, actually. And it's one of those tips or time-saving methods which you can only really find when you're actually there doing it and exploring with the options that you have available to you. Obviously, if you have the budget, you would have, you'd have all the options available to you. But you're working with what you have and using it to the most efficient way is key, I think, to really make that quality show, which it did in your film. And just really, really good job. Really good job. So, I mean, did you, what's the plans then for the film now? So you've mentioned that maybe a sequel or maybe something similar. Do you have anything that you would like to go forward with it, with the same premise? Anything that you could say, obviously keeping everything under wraps maybe, or?
I think it's a hybrid, honestly, Mark.
Okay.
So our answer is right now this is obviously a Halloween themed movie. So you have a very short time window where it's really going to be popular. So September, October, that's really the sweet spot. Unfortunately, due to the COVID global pandemic, a lot of the distributors are finding it hard to get basically distribution for theatrical releases, which is ultimately what everyone would probably shoot for. And although we were under consideration from a pretty decently sized distribution company, the timing is really off. So I think the reality of what we're looking at is this is most likely, unless something dramatic happens and theaters start opening pretty quickly, the most realistic assumption is that we will be releasing on video on demand, most likely on sort of like Amazon Prime and Hulu and that. So stay tuned for that. I think the success of the distribution and how that gets out there once we get to September, late September, the release date is set for September 25th. It will be available no matter what, iTunes and Amazon. Yeah. It is going to be available, but on what platforms is still yet to be determined. The success of that will help determine whether or not we go ahead and produce chapter 2 and chapter 3. You know, we have our concepts for a trilogy. So we have Deadly Promises. Part 2 would be Deadlier Promises. Part 3 would be Deadliest Promises.
Excellent.
But we'll see where it goes from here. Don't want to spoil the ending. You guys know the ending. You know it kind of leaves ... and it's like, okay, what else? What's next? So we intentionally did that so that we would have space to be able to follow up.
Perfect. Brilliant. Just a question on that. How much work did you do in pre-production to plan ahead? I mean, obviously no one could have foreseen what has happened with, you know, being with the COVID situation. But did you have a very set plan as to what you wanted to achieve? Or was it all kind of, well, let's just see how we're going, see what comes up, see what kind of film that we end up with, and then go from there? Or was there a pretty solid plan that you had from the beginning?
I would not say. What do you think? I don't think we had a solid plan at all for what this would look like.
I think it's a mix.
Sure.
We had a relative plan, but we did also go with the flow, and we saw what would happen, what kind of scenes could we do with this, or we just saw what happened. We saw if there was potential. We had a plan.
And we kept changing it. And we kept changing it. And we kept changing it.
It went well, I say.
Yeah, it did go really well. And, you know, originally, again, back to the father-son project, this was simply something where I thought to myself, you know, we're in Colorado. We don't have as many large productions that happen here. There is a lot of talent. And initially, a father-son project, Julian and I, like you mentioned earlier, Ghost in the Gun, which was a fabulous production. That was approximately 4 years ago, I believe. We were driving 2 hours at 5:30 in the morning to get to Hollister, California, just to be in the scene in this, you know, in that ghost town. And, you know, that was before Julian had even turned professional. And you learn lots and lots and lots. The more you do, the more sets you're on, from student sets to full-blown professional, like Beautiful Boy, for example, you know, the full-on top-notch sets. As somebody that's on set, sometimes participating, sometimes not, but you get a sense of what good looks like. And it doesn't matter the size of the production. There are qualities that you can pick up from each of those. And I think what we did was, starting out with a father-son project, learning a lot of what would we do if we were doing our own movie. You know, a year before this, if you said you're going to produce your own film, you guys are going to create a feature film, I'd be like, you're crazy. Come on. But learning everything that we did along the way and seeing the possibilities, that's sort of where it started. And I said, okay, you know, there's this short film. Julian takes this character, he brings it to life. There's got to be more to it. A couple months later, we purchased the rights to that film, which is then where we started with that story, and it grew from there. And it went on from becoming, like I said, the idea for a long short film to episodes to the feature film. But it kept going on this platform where, I don't know, I just felt really empowered. A lot of prayer went into it because, you know, you got to have some strong faith when it comes to these kinds of projects. You need all the help you can get. And the man upstairs really put his fingerprints on it and really enabled us to, I think, guide, or I don't know, maybe be inspired to take it in a direction that this isn't a way, for example, where we're doing something that's honoring ourselves, and it's not necessarily honoring, you know, God, so to speak, but this is a movie that might reach people who are in dark places and give us a platform to bring love and light to them, because bad things happen in this world, and this is a story about examples of bad things that happen in this world and mental struggles. And again, we tried to keep it, I think, realistic without it being too cheesy. Again, real and fun, but there's a higher calling. You know, what started out as a father-son project turned into a platform to showcase Colorado-based talent, which turned into an even higher calling. That it's just, I don't know. I feel like this is just the beginning of a lot of great things in the future, I guess is how I'll sum that up.
Well, that is a very good very good like message as well. Just the same. We have felt the exact same thing. Like London is the place to be in the UK. Well, traditionally it's the place to be. And yes, if you want to be on stage in a theatre performing, especially if you're an actor, go to London. Definitely go, because there's so many great. It's like being Broadway, and it's the same. But we found that there are so many talented people, and there's so many people, so many teams, maybe not father and son, but just teams that want to make great films and share messages, share ideas, try things, experiment with things that maybe don't get the opportunities because they aren't in that bubble of tradition. But I think as the world is more it's more of a digital world, there's more opportunities with YouTube or Vimeo or all of these places where you can explore and have people view your content. Then why not just grab a camera?
Absolutely.
Try things. If father and son, whoever, friends, brother, sister, whoever, it doesn't matter who you're with. If you trust each other and you can collaborate, why not?
Absolutely. And Mark, that was part of the fun too. We have some little secret things that are in there that are very personal, including Julian's older brother is the tow truck driver, his younger sister, and mom and my wife. They were in there as well. They were part of the restaurant scene. And I mean, we got to, bring together family and friends also to be part of this project that made it just that much extra special. And fun. So I would definitely encourage the listeners and filmmakers out there to, take advantage of the resources that you do have and, make it fun. Quality, like I said earlier, is extremely important. That attention to detail, that's a big deal. But you got to have fun. And if you're doing it right, that fun is going to be the adrenaline. It's just going to keep you going. And it's going to just make the whole experience better for everyone.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Okay, well, just a final few questions, because obviously it's a beautiful day there. We don't want you to waste it. If you can, get outside.
This is wonderful.
This is awesome.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure speaking to you, and obviously you two both. Sort of the relationship that you have as father and son is just incredible to see. So sort of breaking away from that slightly. So individually, your answer could be that you are intending to work together going forward, but do you have individual goals within the film industry? Because obviously, Julian, you're an actor. Is your goal to win an Oscar one day or whatever? Or, is there something that you individually want to achieve? It doesn't have to be within a set time. It could be, in 5 years, do you want to be a regular on whatever, or be in, wherever you want to be? Is there something that you might want to achieve?
Actually, that's a good a dream I've had, being on television. That's kind of cool. That's really interesting to me. And it seems like a different experience. Like, it gives you the opportunity to bring the character not just once or for these scenes, but for a whole series. Even if you're like a guest or a regular, whatever, you can bring your character to life.
Sure.
In however you want. Same with film, but it's just a whole different platform. And I've also found Nick for writing, and I really like writing. I love, since as an actor, character arcs are really important to me, so I love writing about different characters or different people going through various things or going on this adventure and seeing how that turns out in my brain, and I love that. So,
and writing roles for yourself as well. So there's always acting opportunities for you because you're making them.
Yeah, pull a Quentin Tarantino, of course.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. And what about you, Tommy? Like, is it something similar? Like, because obviously your specialisms are slightly different. Is there something that you want to achieve, or is it just to see Julian do really well, or is it something that you personally want to achieve?
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. I think that, where we are in the here and now, my goal is primarily to help support Julian and his future film career, wherever that might go. It's much less about me, but I've also found that that's actually been a really good principle throughout my whole life. whatever role I'm doing is the more you lift other people up, the more successful you are. And I can tell you that just in the past 2 months, I've received like 4 different scripts where people are wanting me to produce their film or help them, get to the next level. So I think that, there's a knack there. For me, I don't know if that would become my primary role. But, time will tell. I really love it. I've loved everything that we've done. It's enjoyable to get to win awards, and it's enjoyable to see people's reaction when they watch your film and, know that that's your project that comes to life, but you also can't help thinking about what's next and how can I help other people in this realm. So for me, I think it's probably wait and see. Let's see where this goes. I'm excited to help, but most importantly, I'm excited to get out to the Eastern Midlands of the UK and meet Adam and Mark and all your other friends.
Yeah, very flattering. So how can people follow you then? So is it, because obviously the film's coming out hopefully soon and hopefully to great success, but before that and after that, how can people follow you and stay tuned with your careers?
Sure. Well, you can follow Julian on Instagram.
Yes, the Julian Crouser on Instagram.
Crouser is spelled like trouser, at least here in the USA. Crouser. You can find me on Instagram, Tom Film Producer. And then our production company, it's under Tolian Productions, Tolian, Tolian Productions on Instagram, or Tolian Pro on Facebook. And that's where we continually post all the updates with film festivals, awards, what's coming next, where the film can be viewed. Just like many of our film festivals out there are shifting to an online platform for a virtual experience over the next couple of months. I think you'll find it there in a couple of places. And then again, we'll be having a live public release officially on September 25th. Yes. So one way or another, we really appreciate the support and the follows, and really great to speak to both of you guys today.
Yes,
thank you again so much.
Likewise, it's been an absolute pleasure and a lot of great messages from the both of you, and I hope you have great success going forward.
Thank you. Really looking forward to seeing what comes up next.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that was Tom and Julian Crouser, and I just want to say thank you to both of them, because they were just great guests to have on, and I always find this with guests from across the seas, especially ones that are in America and have. You always think of America and LA and Hollywood as the homeland of cinema and everything, but it's just not the case. It's just, if you take cinema from is it like could you call it grassroots filmmaking? Well, it is indie filmmaking. Just there's a lot of shared tales and stories, and as long as I think you can respect any film from wherever it's from, especially the ones that are outside of the bubble, the common bubbles, and just say if you put the effort in, who cares where it's, it's just a good film, and this one was, and it's it's the whole reason why we're doing this. And I know it's sort of going on about it again, but it is the whole reason we're just trying to promote and open the doors to as many different films from as many different parts of the world as we can. Yep,
and just it just makes you realise how small the world and the industry is, that that some of the issues that they're coming up against are some of the issues that we are
right
as well
across the world.
Exactly.
And
hopefully that anyone that's listening can see similarities in the way that they're working and the way that Tom and Julian are working, because it's I just think it helps loads to know that you're not fighting your way into the industry on your own with no support or anything. You everyone's doing the same thing, so like you say, that's why we do the podcast, to talk about these kind of things and hopefully demystify it a bit, and yeah, just like create a bit of a community around independent film making.
Which is just a good point, actually. Just if there are any listeners, viewers that are watching and listening, this must be a better way of saying that. If there's anything that doesn't make sense, because we're filmmakers, me and Adam and Al, and we can talk about things, and they make sense to us. Like a lot of the at least the basics make sense to us. If there is anything at all which just doesn't make sense, or if you want more information about that, even if there's a lot of content on YouTube, like just how to make a film, for example. But if there's anything that you think is worth us talking about, exploring, we might talk about it in the future. Like, just let us know. And if there's anything that is a bit confusing or wants clearing up, like we're by no means experts. There are so many things that we haven't looked into and had the opportunity to experiment with, but we can at least provide
we can ask people that do.
Exactly. We can either ask people that do, or we can give our experiences related to something. So there's always that opportunity for you there. Always.
Yeah, and we will. We've got some episodes in the pipeline where we are having a bit more of a free discussion, so we can tackle topics that people send in. And now we're starting to be able to ask or seek out people, winners of the festival, that are actors, that we can ask questions that you've got about acting too, or cinematographers, and we want to have deep dives into these kind of topics. So
for sure,
if you've got something, I know in the past it's been hard to get in contact because you don't know what film's coming up and everything, but if you've got just a topic that you want us to talk about, then we're all ears. If you want to contact us about it on any of the platforms, message us, pen and paper if you want to get to Mark, obviously, but
letter. Oh dear, that'd be so cool though, wouldn't it, if we had sealed envelopes as well that we could stamp our logo on? Would that be, come on, wouldn't that be cooler than sending a message on Facebook?
It might be cooler, but it would be slower. Very slow.
If they sent it first class, if you're in the UK, within 2 days probably you're looking at. So that's not that slow, Adam. Just bigging up the pen and paper,
I think probably stick to digital methods for the time being, unless you've got a fast pigeon.
A fast pigeon. Now, come on, Adam, don't be silly. You can at least make use of the postman or woman or post officer.
Officer. Is that what they're called?
I don't know. Well, in this day and age, the posties are incredibly important to everyone, so they deserve to have some raise in status, I believe.
Yeah.
So, an officer of the post.
Yeah, they should get other responsibilities as well, like be able to arrest someone.
Okay, that's a good place to end the podcast, I think. Maybe that's a topic for discussion. But thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
But what about the code, Mark?
We nearly forgot. Now, I'm so sorry about this. I'm so sorry that we nearly forgot. Not that anyone listening will know that, but we've just spent the past minute off air saying, "Oh no, the code." Anyway, your pens and paper at the ready, please. WDPOD 411. That code again is WDPOD 411.
And that is valid for the next week after the release of this podcast.
Indeed.
And it is for 10% off.
10%, yes. Indeed.
So treat yourself.
Have fun. Have fun, for sure.
And we'll have fun watching your films.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, We always get surprised, and who knows, we might chat to you one day if you submit, and we have you on our podcast. So thank you very much for everything. Or goodbye.
Bye.